why Brad Pitt and Ben Affleck are the same person. That does it for news this week, and that is everything that's happened in the world. I'm sorry. Breaking news, people. A video game was released in 2015. Let's go to the New Game Plus review team for their take on this surprise new release.
Battlefield, 7 out of 10.
I know we're in the middle of a dry season, but it does honestly feel like the 2015 gaming release season is drying up. It's not helped by the fact that so many games have been pushed into 2016, like The Legend of Zelda on Wii U, Uncharted 4, even Homefront: The Revolution. Although, I think the fact that the Homefront sequel still exists is probably exciting enough news for Homefront fans. I believe both of them are furiously messaging each other as we speak. But each of these delays just reinforces the fact that AAA titles take a lot of time and a lot of effort to produce. Gabe Newell doesn't just close his eyes, make a wish, and breathe out into the world a Half-Life 3. Although he does cry and weep out Dota 2 hats, that's a true medical fact. But it takes a team of engineers, artists, programmers, and all sorts of other people who are the best in their craft to make a game. I could spend many segments talking about this, but for the moment I'll just point you to one indicator of this fact. Take a look at the credits for any major modern title. If you've ever played through a recent Ubisoft game, well, you wouldn't be watching me since you'll still be in day 97 of the Assassin's Creed Unity credits roll. Honestly, it's like looking at a global census for everyone ever. Now, what are the costs though for these big AAA titles? Normally publishers are very secretive about this information, but that's not going to stop this intrepid reporter from Googling any leaks that have gone out. Last generation games like say Gears of War would have cost about US $10 million. That would barely fund an E3 trailer today. For instance, Watch Dogs allegedly cost $65 million to develop. Destiny reportedly $140 million. Even Call of Duty Elite, that mobile app which I've already forgotten the name of, cost apparently $50 million to develop according to a former employee's LinkedIn account. But all this pales in comparison to Grand Theft Auto 5, which according to one report cost $265 million to make. Forget about San Andreas. With that kind of money, you could almost buy the Federated States of Micronesia. Or you could buy 2% of Ron Perlman. I'm sorry, that's not Ron Perlman the actor, but billionaire investor Ronald Perlman. Although for that sort of money, you probably just get the tip. Come on, that joke wasn't that bad, was it? I'll show you. Oh, fine. Now, take all of this information with enough grains of salt to set up your own fighting game tournament, but it very much puts into light how expensive it is to make even a big budget game. Hell, this is even spread to the indie circle. Let me tell you of one example that not only portrays how difficult and how expensive it is to make a game even at the indie circuit, but also how little we know of this. Lab Zero Games, developers of the fighting game Skullgirls, started a crowdfunding campaign asking for $150,000 to add one character to its roster. Even though the developers were transparent with the budget and the process, people for some reason were still outraged, actually outraged at the cost. All sorts of armchair developers went to the usual forums with the usual cries of, oh, I could make that game for a sixpence and a vigorous mint. And you had others essentially finding the non-existent conspiracy theory here of saying that these people are being scammed, they just need to try to find the truth. Presumably, all these people had just come from an hour-long session of shouting at their local fast food employee because the lettuce in their burger wasn't fresh. This attitude is disingenuous to these developers, especially the smaller ones, who are operating on a threadbare of a shoestring budget. Now, I'm not excusing games that are poorly managed, nor am I excusing bad games just because 5 artists worked on a single chair the entire project. And indeed, we should hope for the best for all these games, but the best requires a lot of time and a lot of money. So I'm sort of sympathetic when these big studios, who ultimately just want you to play their game, have to push their project back just because they want their game to be the best it can be and the best it can be for our modern tastes. Whether this model is sustainable though, and that is everything that's happened in the world ever.